good afternoon, and welcome to the 800 Credit Score Man Show. I am your host, Kevin King. He is I, and I am him. I want to thank you guys for coming in and listening to the 800 Credit Score Man Show every Saturday at what time? 1:30 Central Standard Time every Saturday. I want to thank you for giving me a half an hour of your time on Saturdays so I can help you increase your credit scores. Increasing your credit scores reduces the amount of interest that you have to pay and thus saves you money. So thank you guys for coming in yet again. So I got a question for you. So has the credit scoring system improved at all within your lifetime? That's the question for you. Think about it. Has it improved at all? And I say that the answer to that is absolutely. Depending on how old you are, there are a lot of new things that have happened. So now you can get access to a free credit report once every 12 months. That's something that may have happened within your lifetime. If you have been turned down for a loan somewhere before, or a credit card or what have you, then you are also given the opportunity to get a free credit report just because you have been turned down. And you also must receive a letter from whoever turned you down telling you exactly why they turned you down as well. So those are all things that have changed over the last, I would say, 20, 30 years that have changed about the credit scoring system. And now there are some new changes that have come down, so we can all answer that question. Has the credit scoring system improved at all within your lifetime? With a resounding yes. Yes, it has, because some new changes have come. So I'm going to ask you this as well. So are you aware that changes were coming or even on the way? And if you weren't, you will be after today's show, because that's what we are going to tackle today. So if I had to place a title, I guess, on this particular show, I would say it will probably be Change is Here. Last week, I talked a little bit about some changes in the second half of the show. We discussed a new agreement between consumers, that's you, and the three major credit bureaus of TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. And we talked about it specifically in regard to medical collections and how they're placed on your credit report and what changes are going on when it comes to that. So that's what we talked about last week. I'm not going to go back and rehash all of those things, although I will mention it toward the end of the show. And if you missed it last week, then I want you to go back and listen to the show. It's entitled, What Should I Do If I Have a Late Payment? And that's from November the 12th. So go back and listen to the show. It's available, of course, right here on Spreaker.com. And that's Spreaker, Spreaker.com. It's available right here. All you have to do is search for 800 Credit, and it should start popping up. You'll see the 800 Credit Score Man show there. And then it's also on demand, of course, at your leisure on iTunes. And I might as well go ahead and make this announcement now, since we're right here. Some users have said to me that they do not have access to iTunes, so they can't, get the show at their leisure like I've been saying all the time. Well, I'm excited to announce today that the 800 Credit Score Man show is now available on Google Play as well. So all my Android users out there, you can now download and listen on the go at your leisure right there on Google Play. Now, the previous shows are all available right now. They're all available right now. If you go to Google Play and you search for the 800 Credit Score Man show, they should all be there right now for your listening pleasure. Now, as far as today's show is concerned, I'm not sure how it's going to work yet. This is the first show that's they're going to be able to get after, it's live here on Spreaker.com. So I'm not sure how that's going to work. I know iTunes typically shows up about 30 minutes after the show is over. So if you're on the East Coast and the show starts at 2:30 there, it's done at 3 o'clock, maybe, 3:01, 3:02, the show's done. So then at about 3:30 East Coast time, then it should be on iTunes. That may be the same with Google Play. I'm not sure yet, but please do me a favor. All my Android users, all the people that want to go to Google Play, please go to Google Play and give me a ring and let me know how it worked out for you. Does it sound good? Does it sound the same? Was it difficult to find? All of those things, please let me know. You can contact me at 800creditscoreman@gmail.com. Please do that for me. I would really appreciate it. All right, family. So let's go ahead and let's get into the show. Like I said, I'm going to entitle this show, I believe, Change is Here, because some things have definitely changed for the positive for us all. So it's actually, in my opinion, it's probably the most positive change for us all since the Fair and Accurate Credit Transaction Act of 2003. Now we're coming up on 2017, and so since 2003, I believe this is the most significant change, and it's definitely positive for us. So let's jump right into what these changes are. So the first thing I want to mention in regard to the changes are that debt collectors, and I've mentioned this before on the show because it's been coming for quite some time. Debt collectors now must prove that you own the debt. So I'm positive that I've mentioned it before, like I said, and prior to this particular agreement, and this agreement was struck by the Attorney General from New York. His name is Eric Schneiderman, and so he facilitated this agreement between the consumers and the collection agencies, and the credit bureaus. So that's TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. And so now they definitely have to prove that it's yours. So before, all you had to do is if you filed a dispute, the collection agency just had to reply back that yes, it's yours without any kind of proof at all. Now they must provide some proper documentation, if you will, to say that yes, this particular account is this person's account and they do owe this particular amount of money. So they must provide proper documentation now. Now, they still have the same 30 days to do that within. So before, it was easy for them to dismiss you and say, hey, yes, this person actually owes this particular amount of money or do owe on this particular account. But now they have 30 days to do it, and they've got to actually provide documentation. So sometimes they just don't have the proper documentation, and sometimes they just miss the deadline. So if they miss the deadline, that's good for you and bad for them, but too bad for them, and it has to come off of your credit bureau if they cannot provide that documentation within 30 days of you filing your dispute. Now, I mentioned, I believe, last week that I said you should file your disputes online. It's a lot quicker to do it online. It's a lot simpler to me to do it online. And then you actually know the day that you actually submitted that because, you have that record of it. If you send it in the mail, they actually give them an additional 5 days or so for mailing purposes. So if you want to get it done and you need to get it done quickly, then I suggest you go online to file your disputes through the credit bureau. So do you realize that, now that they have to provide documentation, that with that debacle of the housing market crash and the transfer of thousands and thousands of documents that some people were being foreclosed on were able to get out of that mess because no one was able to prove who owned what and how much they owed or anything of that nature. So that definitely works in our favor for them having to provide documentation about you're the person that actually owns this particular account. So that's a very good thing for us when it comes to debt collectors and you trying to go ahead and make a dispute on your account. Now they have to prove it. And that's one of the reasons I say always to dispute your claims through the credit bureau, not to go to the creditor themselves. It gives them only 30 days to respond back to the credit bureau, and the credit bureau works as your agent. They are the person in between. They're going to collect all that documentation, and then they'll make that final decision, and you'll get that information back. If you file it online, you'll submit your email address, and they'll even email you and say, yes, you filed it. They'll even give you updates while your 30 days is going on. If it's been submitted, if they're waiting on a reply, things of that nature, you'll get those things from them. So if you do have something that you need to dispute do it through the credit bureau, TransUnion, Equifax, or Experian. So let's get into something else. What is the second thing I want to tell you about? So this particular agreement with Eric Schneiderman that he championed for all of us, it prevents collection agencies from placing derogatory items on your credit report that you haven't made an agreement for. Now, what do I mean by that? For example, you signed up for cable. So eventually, if you don't pay, and then they may send you to a collection agency, that's perfectly fine. That's the way it has traditionally worked. You signed up for that, and if you don't pay, then you're going to have to pay eventually if they have to, send you to collections or what have you. Now, this provision keeps like cities and counties from placing items on your credit report that you didn't sign up for. So things such as fines and tickets. So maybe you get a fine because you had a code enforcement violation from your city, whatever that code enforcement is. You had too much trash in your yard. Some places say that if you take your trash to the curb and you have to have it at the curb after a certain amount of time, and you can't leave it out there for 2 days and things like that, and your garbage can stays out there, they may fine you. Well, before they would basically threaten you, if you don't pay this fine, here's what'll happen to you, we'll put it on your credit report, things like that. So now they cannot do that. So they can't just place things on there. If you're a person that gets, parking tickets or whatever it is, they cannot place those things on your credit report anymore. So this particular agreement stops that as well. So then that'll help people out as well, because of course, if you get a collection placed on your credit report, it is going to drop your credit score, significantly. So this is a good thing for us all, that they cannot just add things to your credit report just because you wouldn't pay a particular fine. Maybe you're actually fighting with them, or maybe you just don't have the money to pay this code enforcement. I'm going to pick on the city of Chicago for a minute. The city of Chicago a few years back started fining people for not shoveling the snow in front of their home. So I can imagine a lot of little old ladies and little old men that didn't shovel the snow in front of their home, and they were getting fines from the city because they didn't shovel the snow in front of their home. So this is something that cannot be placed on your credit score, your credit reports anymore. So that's another thing. So that's number 2. So before I get into number 3, I want to give a couple shout outs real quick. I want to give a happy birthday shout out to Dominique. She celebrated a birthday earlier this week. I also want to give a shout out to Michaela. Michaela is actually my great niece, y'all. She is my great niece, and she celebrated her 5th birthday on November the 7th. So happy birthday to you, Michaela. So, all right. So let's jump back in to what we're talking about today, with the change that is here that is positive for all of us. So I want to talk a little bit about your credit report. So before, I've always said that, you get that free credit report. You get that one free credit report on a 12-month rolling basis. 12-month rolling basis meaning it's November. If you get one free now, say with Equifax, then in another 12 months, you can get another one for free with Equifax. Well, now you can actually get a second credit report for free just for filing a dispute. So we just talked about filing a dispute and how they have to prove it, but because you file a dispute, then you have the ability to get another free credit report just for filing. Now, it doesn't say anything about what the outcome was of that dispute, because of course, if you dispute it, sometimes it'll come back in your favor saying, no, this person doesn't owe it and we have to remove it. And then sometimes it'll come back against you and say, no, this person actually does owe this. So it doesn't distinguish at all between those things. Just for filing a dispute, now you can get a second free credit report as well. Now, where do you go get your credit report? You should all know this by now. You should all really, really know this by now. It is www.annualcreditreport.com. That's